About a week ago, I did a collaboration video with RX Smart Gear, and Dave Newman, the owner, screenshotted a reel that I tagged them in of me doing crossovers, and he was like, hey, there's like a bunch of issues going on with these crossovers, and he offered kindly to get on Zoom and help me through it. We're about to get on the phone with him, and hopefully he can help me fix my crossovers.
The way I like to measure ropes, I only go 1 foot in the middle, right? 1 foot in the center of the rope, then feet together, and then stand tall through your spine, like at attention. That's your jumping position. So what I want you to do is, and I also turn the handle sideways out of the way. I only care how long the cord is, right? Handles are in your hand, the cord's moving around you, so I only care how long the cord is. If I'm coaching you, I can get you to the right size. If you're just going to our website to purchase something, it's really hard to convey to somebody what they should be using. And the problem is, we have everything set so that the bottom of your sternum is the top out. You never want your rope longer than that, right? Because that's just too much material moving around your body, and you're going to have to compensate for that material by moving your hands, right? So there are people who, they like the rope mid-chest, almost to their clavicle, right? And they feel like that's the right size for them, but they just don't realize that they're just moving very inefficiently. The one constant that never changes is where the rope cleanly passes through in front of your toes is always about a shoe length. That's our marker. About 10 inches or so is your ideal pass through, where you're trying to get the rope to just come down and just lightly graze the ground about a shoe length in front of your toes and pass through. So if you have a super long rope, and to get you in the right positioning, we know that rope is going to contact way far away. And so that's why people naturally start to pull slack out by moving their hands wide, right? That's just the common innate thing that people will do. What I was going to try and show you how to do is, if you have extra beads, that you can, add beads onto your string so that the top of the beads actually matches like your cable length. There's 4 beads strung on the inside of the handle, right? At least on one side. That way, when I tie my knot stays at the very top, right? The other side, you can just put I think I just have 2 or 3 beads in here. It doesn't really matter, 2 or 3 beads. I'm gonna grab that knot and I'm gonna pull all the slack out of it completely, so that now all the beads are pulled tight. So now when you pull the tight, this rope is so much more responsive, right? So when you cross, it's not so floppy, right? And then you just tie a slip knot that sits right on top of that inner bead. Just tie a slip knot like that, right? So I'll jump with my rope like this, but the thing is my beads are the length that I want them to be, right?
I was wondering about that because I was trying to make the rope shorter, and then I was like, I have to tie it right at the handle because, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
CrossFitters, we try and get them to understand, like, hey, we want to dissect our body in half. We want to find where, roughly dead middle of our body, for most people, that's hip crease, right? Right at the hip crease is pretty much even Steven. Hip crease to the top of my head, hip crease to the bottom of my toes. So I want to move as little as possible and create a symmetrical environment. So for me, if I'm just relaxed, I want to just be able to raise my hands up to my hip crease, turn my handles out to the side, and then everything happens from this position, right? Wherever my hands hang, I want to just raise them straight up in position and then turn them out. So your elbow should always have a bend, and your elbow should always be behind your shoulder. If your elbow is ever in line with your shoulder, then your hands are out of position. So what I'm always looking for is, are the forearms pointing forward, or are the forearms starting to point sideways, angle out? I call it barbell position. CrossFitters resonate with the barbell, right? So I just say, look, this is the center of my body. Here's my visual, center of my body. I'm just trying to raise my hand up to that height, turn my palm forward. So here I am. This is the position. People always just automatically gravitate to where they're comfortable, and then they make the rope fit that shape, and they think like, oh, okay, that's where I'm supposed to be, right? Our biggest challenge with people buying a jump rope on our website, if it's not the Rapid Fit or the Frevo, every rope is a fixed length. So you have to get the right length. So we can tell you what you should be using, but we have no idea what you can use. When you start getting like advanced level, what I could call advanced, now your rope is closer to your belly button, you know? So beginner, standard, advanced, you're gonna be down there, right? You kind of just, that's just kind of like a general. It's so general, dude. Like, that's not to say that a super advanced jumper doesn't use a rope that's up here. It's the ones that go out here and they change the whole mechanic of how they rotate the rope. Those are the ones that I think are not working efficiently, right? Everything that happens from the waist level down to the ground. My rope arc makes a big pizza pie around my body, divided into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. Everything happens in quadrant 4. That's when you need to know when to like get out of the way of the rope, right? So I like people to just keep their head neutral and just gaze down with their eyes about 4 feet in front. And when you're gazing at the ground, you can see the blur of your rope, which gives you a sense of timing, right? Like, oh, there's my blur. I should be getting out of the way. But you can also track your hand with your peripheral vision. This is your base position. Now, body position, when you cross, it definitely helps to get a little hollow. Definitely helps to get a little hollow so your arms can freely flow through so that you're not swinging out and around your body, right? You're just trying to get the most direct path to get your hand switched. What we see a lot is people will cross and miss the ground, open and tap the ground, right? So it's miss, tap, instead of tap, 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 tap.
Right.
So they need to find the ground. So they need to get a little hollow. They need to push. I always tell people, push down. It's okay to push down deeper than you think you need to, just so that you're making contact in the same spot, that about 10 inches. And then when you open up, you see a lot of people do this. They'll just open up and stay down, and you'll see the rope hit way out in front of them on the open rep, right?
That makes sense.
So you have to gauge that spot, touch the spot, right? You're still trying to contact that same location. Whenever you get the rope in your hands, you got to get the rope off the ground and against your legs. You got to feel it. I hate when people they're like kind of hanging out like this and then they're stepping on their rope, right? Yep. Get it against their body and then just keep it there. It's still it's above my shoes. And then I'm just going to bring my knuckles together and just hang out right in front of my belly like this. So this is important because I want their starting position. I want the shoulders relaxed. I want them to simply swing their arm open like a gate, right? Swing both arms open. And when I do that, look, I'm sending the rope back. I'm trying to push the rope back first. Then if I do it in one motion, I can bring it around. I can guide it around and bring it overhead, right? So back first, then around. When we're teaching people double unders, we want them to learn slow, methodical double unders. People always think double unders are supposed to be fast because it's sexy. They hear it, right? Double unders should be slow and methodical, and you apply speed when you want to. It's your control. But you never get there unless you learn a slow double under first. That's why you can't do too slow of a double under for me when you're learning. Like the slower you can do it, that just tells me you have better awareness of timing and placement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's harder to do it slower. That's interesting. Like, and I tell people the same thing, but I've told them for a different reason. Like I told them like, oh yeah, you should be able to gauge the speed of what you're doing, and you should be able to do them really slow. But that makes total sense.
So this time, Monroe, look at your focus on your hands. Like use your peripheral vision. Like just look down in front 4 feet and see your hands the whole time, because I just want you to see what that looks like. And really nice floaty doubles. Fantastic. When you get really efficient at nice, strong bounding mechanics, guess what? Your triple unders are going to come much easier.
Right.
Your crossover double unders come much easier, right? If you ever have to use a drag rope or any of the heavy ropes, we have a half pound, 3/4 pound, 1 pound ropes. You don't want to try and spin that fast like a speed rope. You want to give it more time, bound higher, and give the rope more time so you're not frying out all of your upper chain.
I see people when I'm teaching double unders too, when people will like you said, like it sounds fast, it sounds faster, and then they start jumping like to try and meet the time of what they hear, and it's like you're never, that's why you're always tripping. So they'll go like trip, like trip over and over again. It's just like your feet need to slow down. So that's super cool. I'm definitely going to emphasize that.
Okay, cool. Let's talk about crossovers. So here's how I like to get people into crossovers. First, have them just mimic the crossing motion, getting their handles like lined up. Don't let their handles be cocked weird, just straight across, right? Have them look down at themselves, like look and examine what they're doing multiple times, right? And I'm always trying to get them to get their elbows closer together, like not just their wrists, get their elbows closer together to really get their hands pushed through, right? Good. And then the cue I like to give when you open back up, I like to think of just pulling my elbow around my rib rather than swinging my hands out and flicking out like that. I just try and think of pulling my elbows back. And when I pull my elbow back, that swings my forearm where it needs to go. So once they do this, you want to tell them to pay attention to which arm goes on top. If you see that when they cross, the top arm always likes to divert and the top arm doesn't go to the hip, the top arm will start shooting up by the elbow or start shooting up by the shoulder. So if they can't get that top arm under control, then you switch them. Here's a good drill to do, would be to toe catch, but wait for the rope to get past your head, and then just nice late cross, right? Check it, good. Do it again, right? Just start the rope, cross. Now the big thing you're gonna see people do is they'll start the rope and they'll throw their hands wide, thinking they have to wind up to cross. They want to wind up and then dive into a cross. Okay. And once they've done that a couple times, have them start with a single. Just have them go single, cross. And then when that feels good, have them hop through, right? Single, cross, right? Okay. You're trying to keep everything as best possible inside this narrow hallway. Boom, boom. Just try not to get out there. Good. Right hand needs to come down a little bit. Or your left hand, sorry, left hand. They got to be farther. Yeah, there you go. All day? All day. The next drill, which is super fun, is now, well, running in place. So can you do running in place crossovers?
Crossover running in place.
Make your first step a normal single under step, and then just cross your very next one, right? Everything is the same. Everything's the same thing. The big thing on the steps is you're trying to keep your step with your feet in under your butt.
Right.
So it's kind of it's almost a high knee jog, but not real high.
Right.
It's a half high knee jog. You don't want to do this. Easy day.
One of the warm-up drills that I do is like 5 singles, 5 on the left, 5 on the right, 5 double unders, 5 on the left, 5 on the right. And like you can see when someone has knee issues, when they like pull their foot up and they can't bound properly. And so like I see that as like, you know, like, hey, we need to make sure that you're not only coordinated, but like your knee is healthy enough and you're not just kind of jumping up and down. One thing that I think is interesting about jumping rope in general is when people miss or when they trip and they're doing it correctly. Like if I give them a coaching cue or give them a shorter rope and they trip, like that makes their brain think I did it wrong, which I think is a big reason why people struggle with these, is because they're like sometimes I'll be like, no, you're missing in the right way. Like you're doing exactly what I wanted. You're tripping correctly. You know, we have to, you know, and there's a lot of pieces to coordination, right? It's not just can you spin the rope at the right time? It's also like, are you jumping correctly? Or is your body in the right position? Is your arms in the right position? And you can get away with doing it poorly and complete reps, and that confirms to people where they're like, oh yeah, I can do, like I said, like, oh, I can do hundreds unbroken. Like, it doesn't mean it can't be better, you know, and it doesn't mean you're doing it right just because you can do 50 to 100 unbroken.
I can tell you're a good coach, man. That's an important thing you just hit on, is that, like, anytime I'm coaching a group, and like, there's never, like, people are missing a completed rep, but that's not my objective, is a completed rep. My objective is somebody is positively trying to correct a position or a timing or, you know, a movement, a part of the rep. And that's all I want to see. Are you correcting the thing I need you to correct? Even with a failed rep, are you correcting the part? And so everybody gets complimented on every fail, right? Because there's something they did right in the fail. Okay, so the next drill. So single unders, running in place. Crossovers, running in place. Now you can do the next sequence is called, we're gonna do two-footed. It's just single, single, cross, cross. This is the best drill that you can do to get people to start getting coordinated in this position, so that they're just used. Once you get here, you're just trying to keep the rope going with your wrist. You're trying not to let your arms be too overactive, right? So with 2 feet, it's just single, single, cross, cross, right? Single, single, cross, cross. Single, single, cross, cross. Single, single, cross, cross. And you're still trying to make that same contact point. Say it out loud. Say single, single, cross, cross, and do what you're saying. Say it.
Single, single, cross, cross, single, single, cross, cross, single, single, cross, cross.
Now do it running in place. Do it running in place. Just first two, you know, single, single, running in place, and then cross, cross, running in place. Just keep it moving. Yeah, you got it. A really fun drill you can do with somebody, or like a warm up with your class, is, and you can just do it two-footed, not running in place, is you do 1 single, 1 cross, 2 singles, 2 crosses, 3 singles, 3 crosses. So you're staying there, right? You're matching the reps, and you try and, like, first 1 to 10 wins, you know what I mean? Something like that. Left hand down. There you go. You're gonna see people on crossovers. You'll see people, there's 3 different versions that here's the ideal version, right? Just straight point A to point B, right? Straight line. You'll see that. Then you'll see the orchestra conductors that have this infinity going, which they can do a lot like that, but I'm not a big fan. And then you'll see the can-can dancers. When I saw your video, I think you were crossing, right when you leave the ground, you're crossing the first rep, and you're uncrossing on the second rep, is what I noticed. So that's called a cross open. So you're trying to time, you're turning the rope over, so you're crossing it, and trying to time the jump at the same time, which is a little bit more, like, that much more complicated, right? Versus if you just take off normal open position, so let that first rotation pass under open, and then while you're at the highest point, then cross before you land. Just let it pass under and then cross before you land. And just try and jump high and move your hands nice and fluid. Don't try and get real frantic.
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
That's so much easier.
I just get people to do just one off, yeah, and then open back up to a toe catch, right? Okay. And when they get really fluid at that, and they can do that one cross double off the deck, then I'll say, okay, now do 2 single unders, 1 cross double. 2 single unders, 1 cross double, right? And again, you're trying to keep your rope speed pretty consistent. 2 singles, big bound, cross double. And then into 2 single unders again, like, keep it moving.
Oh!
Nice.
So much easier.
So much easier, right?
I have to go slower. The slowness is key.
When you go for the cross double, the big thing that should stand out to me is I should just see you, boom, really take off.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Then your arms can move fluidly at the same time, and you got to get your second one. You got to explode. You know, and that's what I tell people. Make your second double under higher than the first one. Make your next double under always higher than the last one, because people will start off big and then they get shorter and shorter. Fun stuff, man.
Yeah, this was
really
awesome.
Fun.
It was really helpful. So I really do appreciate it. And I'm going to send you a video of me doing a crazy amount of crossover double unders soon. Thanks again so much, Dave. I'll talk to you soon.
We'll stay in touch.
Bye.